And when I won in Wisconsin, and when I win in Wisconsin, we're going to come back here. We're going to celebrate. It's going to be amazing. And I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be with you tomorrow. I'm going to be with you the next day.
Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump already counting on Wisconsin's 10 electoral votes in November. And in fact, he's been spending a lot of time in states that don't exactly have a history of voting Republican. Wisconsin hasn't gone red since 1984, and current polls are not exactly in his favor. The Real Clear Politics average of recent Badger State polls has Trump down by almost 10 points. So, does Trump have a chance to change the conversation? Here to weigh in, talk radio host Vicki McKenna from the great city of Madison, Wisconsin. Nice to see you again, Vicki.
Great to be here again. Donald Trump's got some work to do in our great state.
Well, you know, you correctly predicted that Ted Cruz was going to win in Wisconsin during the primary. What's your prediction here for the general?
Well, if the election were held tomorrow, Donald Trump would lose Wisconsin. But the election isn't tomorrow, so he's got some opportunity. He's got some time. Look, I think he can win over the Republicans in Wisconsin. He's going to have to make some changes. But I don't know if he can win the state, only because, you know, as you mentioned, history is against him, and he hasn't really been doing much in Wisconsin to alter the message enough to try to make himself sort of broad appeal like Scott Walker has been as governor of our state. So I think it's a tough slog for him. I think he's actually got to shore up some Republican support first, because he's not even there with the Republicans yet in our state.
Well, you know, you say that, and it's kind of interesting, because if you listen to Trump on the stump, he will tell you that blue-collar Reagan Democrats, of which you got a lot of in Wisconsin, are going to go big for him. Why don't you think that's translating? Why is his message not translating with those folks in Wisconsin, especially the ones that call into your show?
Well, it's because so far he hasn't really had much of a different message in Wisconsin. Look, Wisconsin Republicans are a pretty intelligent bunch of Republicans. They're very activist. They're very, very well informed. We have southeastern Wisconsin that is just blanketed with talk radio. We have Republicans that don't seek out their information from the mainstream press. We have Republicans that you can't just, you know, fly in, pop in every now and again, pat them on the head and say, you know, you're exactly like Michigan. We're going to treat you like Michigan. You're exactly like Indiana. We'll treat you like that. Wisconsin Republicans are different. We've gone through the wars. We've gone through the battles for our governor. In recall elections, we do activism a bit differently. And I think he's actually going to have to respect the fact that we know a lot more about our state than he does.
Well, you think about it, folks who know a lot about your state, two people. One would be Scott Walker, who's obviously won 3 elections, although he didn't have broad national appeal. He hasn't really come out that strong for Donald Trump, certainly isn't out working for him and a surrogate and those kinds of things. The other person is Paul Ryan, who absolutely trounced his pro-Trump primary challenger.
I'll tell you what's going on. Right now, Congressman Ryan and Governor Walker, you know, they're doing what they can, given what they've got to work with in terms of a candidate. I know that Donald Trump has switched over his management team. In the last 3 days, his messaging has been much, much better and much, much more amenable to the ears of Wisconsin voters. I think if he stays on message like he has been, going into West Bend, talking about city issues, going into, you know, downtown Milwaukee and actually talking about the things that we in Wisconsin talk and care about, I think you may see Governor Walker and Congressman Ryan be a little bit more enthusiastic, but these are reform-minded Republicans. These are deep policy Republicans. And unless they see a little bit more game from Donald Trump here, I'm not sure you're going to see them be able to be sort of the enthusiastic cheerleaders they were for Mitt Romney, for John McCain. But I think Donald Trump can change that, and I think his last 3 days, at least in our state, have been very, very positive for him.
Now, you think about the way Wisconsin voted 2004. It was very, very close to Bush winning Wisconsin. He didn't, but he got much closer than anybody has since going back to 1984. Last question for you. An interesting piece in The Atlantic discussing the fact that where Donald Trump does well is not in cities and towns that are particularly bad off, but rather cities and towns that are industrial, that have seen a little bit of a resurgence. Where is Wisconsin on that spectrum? And I know it's a big state, but still, is Wisconsin really still hurting, or have things gotten substantially better there, you think?
I think things have gotten substantially better here, particularly with the election of Governor Walker and some of our key changes. We are now, in the top tier leading manufacturing states. We have seen our budget situation turn around. Our incomes are actually coming back online. We've seen sales tax revenue increase, which means consumers are buying more. The economic situation is, I would say in the last 6 years has gotten better here in Wisconsin, especially given that we have come out of a recession. But listen, I think Donald Trump's biggest challenge in our state is going to be taking that 79% of Republican enthusiasm that he's got nationally, and it's probably about the same here, and turning that into 90% enthusiasm. That all has to do with messaging. That all has to do with him.
Vicki, there's a lot of Republicans.
All has to do with him letting go of the bumper stickers.
Well, there's a lot of Republicans who listen to your radio show. I've got 10 seconds. You think Donald Trump's going to come on as he does local radio and do your show or not?
Donald Trump is welcome to come back on my program anytime. He can cold call me, and I'll take the call. Well,
we'll see if it happens. If it does, come back and chat with us about it. Thanks, Vicki.
Thanks, guys.
All the best.